Hello, I'm Steve Mann and welcome to Paper Classroom's Quiz Corner. Now, when I deliver Level 2 and Level 3 Technical Certificate courses, I don't like to just wander straight into the classroom or switch on Zoom and go straight into the lecture. I like to get to know the audience a little, and I found a really good way of doing this is to have a sort of introductory quiz. So my manuals at the end of each topic have a little page like that for short answers, and I have prepared a set of slides, 20 or 30 slides, and we start off the day by going through these slides, asking 20-30 questions, and the learners fill them in the manual. Now, as you might expect, they're not going to get very high marks when we mark them because they haven't been taught anything. So we finish the quiz and then we repeat those slides, we go through them again, but this time the slides have the answers on and the audience marks their own papers. And that way, I get a feel for the level that the audience is at. And generally it's very low. They may only get 3, 4, 5 marks. The learners themselves get an idea of how much of the day's topics they know and don't know. And an added advantage of doing this is they get a sort of roadmap for the day. They see all the topics that are going to be covered. So we do the lectures, and then at the end of the lecturing session, it may be a one-day session, it may be a 2-day session, but at the end of the lecture, we give them the quiz again. Sometimes we give them the same quiz, sometimes we give them slightly different questions. And again, we go through all the slides with the questions, and then we go through them again, where they've got the answers on, and again, they mark their own papers. Now, by doing that, low score in the morning, usually quite high score at the end of the session, I can see that they've picked up a lot of information. They themselves can see that they've picked up some information, and if requested, this information can go on to their bosses or their managers, and the managers can see that how much they've improved. So that's the plan now. It's to share these quizzes with you, which I've never done before. So there's no reason why you can't use themselves. Just watch this YouTube video. You can stop and start it while you think about the questions if you wish. But we've got the first set of slides where all the questions are asked, and then it continues and the slides are then repeated with the answers there, so you can see the answers. And often I'll have, we won't just give you the bare answer, we'll explain why that answer is that answer. So, use it yourself, challenge yourself, maybe bring a few colleagues in and share it with them, compare, have a little competition, who can do well. Okay, well, thank you for listening to this introduction. Now, let's get on with the quiz. Hi, I'm Steve Mann, and this is Paper Classroom's Quiz Corner. We're going to have a look at the history quiz. Now, this particular history quiz I use both at the beginning and the end of my history lecture. There are 20 slides, and it's worth a total of about 43 points. So let's see how well you can do. Question 1. Which of the following is referred to as the first papermaker? Is it the beaver, the moth, the termite, or the wasp? Question 2. Which plant did the Egyptians use to make a paper-like writing substrate? Question 3. Which country was the first to make paper as we know it today? Question 4. At the time that paper was invented, what two substrates did the Chinese use to record written materials? And question 5. Which group of people were responsible for bringing the art of papermaking from North Africa up into Europe? Question 6. What law was passed in Italy to ensure that the Fabriano family maintained their control over papermaking? Question 7. Which two European countries both claim to be the first to make paper in Europe? Question 8. What were the two major factors that contributed to the first mechanical paper machine being developed at Esson in France? I'll give you a little time to write that down. Okay, question 9. In which year did papermaking reach England? Not the UK, just England. And question 10. What was the family name of the brothers that financed the development of the first mechanical paper machine in England? So we're halfway now, 10 questions gone, 10 to go. Number 11. It's a four-parter, true or false. So 11A, true or false, Brian Donkin brought the idea of mechanical paper making from France to England. 11B, true or false, John Gamble built the first working mechanical paper machine in England. 11C, Crompton designed the first system for the continuous drying of paper. And finally, 11D, true or false, Dickinson developed the first vat machine. Okay, now question 12 is a 6-part question. The answer to each of the 6 parts is either China, Japan, Italy or England. So 12A, which was the first country to make paper that displayed the Lade mark? Was that China, Japan, Italy or England? 12B, which was the first country to make paper that displayed a wove mark? Again, China, Japan, Italy or England? 12C, which was the first country to have mass production of paper items? And 12D, which was the first country to attempt sizing of paper? 12E, which was the first country to invent and use the watermark? And finally, 12F, which of these 4 was the first country to use paper as a form of currency? Question 13. How did John Spillman aim to control the English paper industry? Give you a little time to write that down. Okay, question 14. Match the raw material on the left with the country where it was first used on the right. So, which country was the first to use commercially a chemical pulp? Was it China, England, Sweden, or the USA? Of these 4 countries, which was the first one to use flax and linen? Was it China, England, Sweden, or the USA? And finally, which of these 4 countries was the first to use mulberry? China, England, Sweden, or the USA? Question 15. Arrange the list below and put the items in order of their development, starting with the oldest. So we have 4 items of equipment here: the Hollander beater, the collar gang, the stamp mill, and the Jordan refiner. So rearrange that list: oldest first, newest last. Okay, and now ready for question number 16. List the 3 main chemical pulping processes in order of their development. So the order is as important as the process itself. Okay, question 17. There are many ways of marketing paper products. One such way is the type of fibre used. What 3 fibre types are usually considered to define these 3 markets? Question 18. Which of the following 4 market segments is the largest? Is it the printing and writing segment? Is it the packaging segment? Is it the tissue segment? Or is it all the other paper products that we've yet to mention? Okay, now for the penultimate question, question 19. Corn, wheat and potato are the 3 traditional sources of starch. What are the 3 newer sources? And finally, for question 20, give 2 reasons for the decline of rosin alum sizing. I'll give you a little moment to write that, and then we'll go through the answers. So altogether we have a total of 43 marks. Here we go with the answers. Which of the following is the first paper maker? It is, of course, the wasp. 60 million years BC, the wasp was doing as it does today, landing on dead and dying trees, biting bits out of the wood, chewing it, which is the pulping process, and then spitting it out and spreading it out to make the walls of the paper wasp nest. Question 2. Which plant did the Egyptians use to make paper-like writing substance? It was, of course, papyrus, also known as the umbrella plant, grows on the edge of the River Nile. Question 3. Which country was the first to make paper as we know it today? It was China. It was attributed to a Chinese courtier by the name of Ceylon in 105 AD. Most people believe that that paper was made before then, but Ceylon was the guy who actually wrote down the methodology, and because he was the first person to write down the methodology, he's given the name of the father of papermaking. Question 4. At the time that paper was invented, what 2 substrates did the Chinese use to record written materials? Well, they used silk, because there was plenty of silk around. That's what the Chinese were famous for producing. And they used bamboo. But of course, Ceylon observed this, and his thinking was silk is way too expensive just for recording information. Bamboo, too heavy. So silk was too expensive, bamboo was too heavy. He was looking for a third way and came up with the idea of paper. Question 5. The group of people responsible for bringing the art of papermaking from North Africa into Europe were, of course, the Moors. Question 6. What law was passed in Italy to ensure the Fabriano family maintained their control over papermaking? For this sort of quick quiz, I would accept as an answer the 50-mile rule. But if you were answering a proper exam question, then you'd expect to write a more fuller answer. Something like, the law was no one was allowed to teach papermaking or build a paper mill within 50 miles of an existing Fabriano mill. Question 7. Which 2 European countries claimed to be the first to make paper in Europe? It was Spain and Italy. And the balance of probability, people believe it was probably Spain. Question 8. There were 2 major factors that contributed to the first mechanical paper machine being developed at Esson in France. And the 2 factors were high inflation and lack of manpower. Now, France at the time was undergoing very high inflation. They were using paper as a form of currency. Credit cards didn't exist, so high inflation meant the need for more physical money. But this was the early around 1800s, late 1790s, and Napoleon was taking all the able-bodied men from the factories and the fields and the mills and sending them to the battlefront. So there was a lack of people and a demand for making more money. So the obvious answer was find a mechanical way of doing it. Question 9. In which year did papermaking reach England? It was in the time of Leonardo da Vinci, and that's around 1490. Question 10. What was the family name of the brothers that financed the development of the first mechanical paper machine in England? Most of you probably know this, but you don't know that you know it. The answer is the Foydrinier brothers. So this is where the name of the Foydrinier machine came from. Sadly, the brothers financed the development of the machine and then went bankrupt. So nothing was left behind except for their name. Question 11. True or false? Brian Donkin brought the idea of mechanical paper making from France to England. False. He was actually the guy who took the French machine and made it work. He developed it, he put the effort in, and he developed the first commercially successful paper machine. John Gamble built the first working mechanical paper machine in England. Also false. He was the guy who brought it from France to England. Crompton designed the first system for the continuous drying of paper. True. And finally, John Dickinson developed the first vat machine. Also true. Question 12. Who invented or first used the lathe mark? It was China. Because of the mould, the device for producing paper, just because of its design, the lathe mark became an inherent part of that piece of paper. The wove mark was first observed in England because James Whatman replaced the wires with a woven wire mesh, and that pattern appeared on the underside of the paper when it was made. The first mass production of paper items was done in Japan. This was the Empress Shotoku, who was trying to ward off smallpox throughout Japan, and she had little wooden pagodas made with a piece of paper that was slipped inside with a prayer to try and keep away the smallpox. Sizing was first attempted in China. They used to use rice water, in other words, the water that the rice was boiled in. Wasn't very successful as a size, but improved strength. The watermark was invented by the Italians. It was done actually to prevent counterfeiting initially. And finally, the use of paper as currency. The first people to use it was the Chinese, the people who invented paper in the first place. Question 13. How did John Spillman aim to control the English paper industry? Well, he had a law passed that no one was allowed to collect or store rags, because in those days, rags were the basic raw material for paper. So if you control the raw material, you control the paper industry. Question 14. Match the raw material to the country. Chemical pulp was first commercially used in the USA. It was invented in the UK, but they couldn't get any UK mills to take it on, and so they had to go to the USA. Flax and linen of these countries, it was first used in England, and finally mulberry was one of the things that Ceylon used. He used the bark of the paper mulberry tree along with some silk offcuts and fishing ropes, hemp fishing ropes. Question 15. Arrange these oldest first. Well, the oldest was the stamp mill. The stamp mill was around before paper making. It was used for crushing minerals initially, but it was adapted by the Muslims to work on paper fibres or paper making fibres. Second was the collar gang, invented by the Germans. Third was the Hollander beater, obviously invented by the people of Holland. And then the most modern of those equipments is the Jordan refiner, the narrow angle conical refiner. Question 16, the three main chemical pulping processes in order of their development. 1 mark if you put soda in the first place. 1 mark if you put the sulfite process in second place. And 1 mark if you put the sulfate pulping process in third place. Question 17. Many ways of marketing paper products. One such way is the type of fibre used. What 3 fibre types do we use? We use chemical pulps, mechanical pulp, and non-wood pulp. Question 18. Which of the following 4 market segments is the largest? It's packaging. Question 19. Corn, wheat, potato are the 3 traditional methods of starch, sources of starch. The 3 modern ones are pea, rice, and tapioca. Pea starch is often used in corrugating adhesives. And finally, question 20. Give 2 reasons for the decline of rosin alum sizing. Or 1 reason, the acidity of the alum slowly destroys the cellulose, so paper doesn't have a great lifespan if you use rosin alum, traditional rosin alum sizing, acid rosin alum sizing. And finally, because it was acid, they could only use things like TiO2 and clay as a filler. They couldn't use chalk, or the chalk would have reacted with the alum. So they wanted to get rid of the alum so that they could use chalk, and they wanted to use chalk because chalk was brighter and cheaper than what they were using at the time, clay. So that's the end of the quiz. How well did you do? Can you do better? Did you beat your friends? I look forward to seeing you in one of my other quizzes. Bye for now.